Alright. I'm back now. Playing creative. The right game at the right time. So, sorry about all that jumping around. But, yeah, pretty much today we're reviewing The Brooklyn Kid by Greg Mandarano. And here we are in Brooklyn. So this guy just jumped off a building. Or is trying to jump off a building, and now he's going through his voiceover into the past. So the things we're kind of bringing up so far is a lot of jumping around, which was probably a little bit of a concern when we looked at a very long log line that had a lot of different branches to it. So one, it's awesome that Gregory is tackling such an aggressive story, but it's also risky because the more threads and things you tie together, the exponentially harder pulling that story off becomes. So we'll see if we get it figured out here. And naturally, that's when the Quaaludes hit me like a ton of bricks. The world spins around and loses balance. Wait a second, maybe we're getting a little ahead of ourselves. Okay, jump to the past. Okay, they're gambling. All you do is you can guess the last 3 digits to the total mutual handle of any given race. Heavy on jargon, people buy tickets, check odds, series of shots. Check odds, drink beer, and review the programs. Others dine on food and wine. The chocolate club. Odds of guessing are 1,000 to 1. And the payback's 500 to 1. So if you bet a nickel and hit the number, you won 25 bucks. Any win could be a windfall. But that made it serious business. An Italian fat man enjoys a meal at his dining room table. The numbers racket was the cause of many a death in the Italian neighborhoods. Take this guy, for instance. You're 65, you eat lasagna and fried zucchini every night. 4 glasses of wine to drink it down. Fat man gets yelled at by his wife. So one thing to think about, and as the writer, you know, when this is on screen, the viewers will not be able to tell which characters. I mean, there are some cues, but the viewers can't tell which characters are going to be the big characters and which characters are going to be the small characters. So lots of characters early on. Yeah, I mean, you have like Vera up here. I don't know if she is in the same caliber as Fat Man and his wife. I'm doubting it. But if I'm watching this on screen, I won't know who Laurie and Vera are versus Fat Man. And to that, your wife screaming at you every day and not working for the past year. Drinks a beer, opens up daily news. Get your last dial on Lucky 77 when you go up to the racing track. So I think the tone and voice is really good. But this is very exposition. And I'm doubting that yeah, I mean, at 123 pages, I'm going to struggle to believe that all that exposition is necessary to tell this story. I'm going to say that you probably only need a fraction of that. But I could be wrong. I mean, don't, you know, yeah, this seems pretty exposition heavy, I would say. Almost cripplingly so. Now that you've got your last dial on Lucky 77, when you open up, okay, just like that, just like, what's his name? What is his name? Vera shakes her head in disappointment. 7:14 and 7:16 came out. Bah, that bum came horse after the 8th like I told him. Didn't bet his lousy deuce that'd be in the chips tomorrow. Slap, slap, echoes out of the bedroom. Vera and Laurie get up to investigate. They run in to find a nude, shit-covered kid standing up in his crib, slapping a crap-laden diaper against the wall. Look what the little monster's doing. He's getting mede all over. Laura pulls the diaper away and raises his hand to slap him. Wait, Laura, I think he's trying to tell us something. Isn't a 1 next to 3 and the last of 7? 137. 137. He wants us to play it, I'm sure. Seems kind of far-fetched. I think it's a funny moment. Yeah, so one thing to think about too is, especially at 123 pages, which is long for a screenplay, you don't need, for the payoff you have, you know, the kid poopy diaper prediction, you don't need 2 pages of setup, or I would say you probably don't. Like, this seems a bit superfluous. Because I know they're betting on something, and I know it's a numerical betting system. I don't really need to know exactly how it works to get what's going on as the reader. So I would just say, cut through it and make it happen. And just, you know, stay in the scene and don't jump around anymore. You already have a lot of jumping around. It's going to feel really schizophrenic if you start watching this. And, you know, if you ever, you know, if you get a camera, I would just try filming some of this, even amateur, like, don't make it nice, just try filming a few of these scenes and just watch how it feels. Like, the voiceover, it's always, I definitely am not a fan of voiceover. Some people do use it professionally and it's great, but I would always point people away from that unless it's dead necessary, which it could be in this because it's like a monster film and that's part of the trope. But yeah, something to keep in mind. Holy Mother of God, you're right. It isn't a 1 next to 3 a 7. Poop prediction. While most immigrants have grown skeptical of the old ways and given up their superstitions of the old country, my Nana Vera Mariano kept up with her rituals just to be on the safe side. Besides her rosary, before I was born, she spent all night praying to St. Anthony to divert the evil spirits, but most of all, she prayed after 23 years that Miss Fantasia's her son would be born with a veil. Okay. It all started when my pops almost died with the fever as a kid. The hell does Vera think he is? What? So, like, these dialogue bits are a bit odd. The Josie dialogue here. Something's wrong, Vera. Let's see what happened. This is also a lot of exposition. Your goal. Yeah, I mean, I guess what I'm writing there pretty much says it. You know, there's a lot of exposition here, and I think the risk really is when you have this much exposition and this much information to get across. There's 2 things. Like, one is you're not doing it with conflict right now, because remember, flashbacks are never conflict, because unless they influence the immediate scene, because I already know this has happened. I already know it has no bearing. I mean, he's about to jump off the roof. So I don't know how him flashing back to this is going to change his decision. So this is pretty much just exposition with man, I wish I could think of a better way to communicate this. But yeah, I mean, it's pretty exposition heavy with little conflict. And then if you, let's say there's no way to get conflict in here. You just want to trim it as much as possible, make it as efficient as possible. Like, I think you have great voice. I think the characters' voices sound super awesome and authentic, but, you know, that doesn't, you know, unfortunately, exposition is still exposition no matter how cool it sounds. And the reader will want to get to movement in the plot. Plot movement is what they want. So we're not there yet, and it's already on page 7. And you know, I usually, if I was a reader, I would stop reading at page 10 if it wasn't really going somewhere at that point. So we'll see if we're in that realm today. Laura puts on a shawl and steps out. Okay, they find the young bear at the table, big stream of garlic around her neck and black rosemary beads in her hands. Vera, what's the matter? Vera puts her beads and cries on Laurie's shoulder. The horns are on Tony again. It's his 3rd pneumonia this week. Someone has the evil eye on him, I'm sure of it. So I like the, I do actually really like the mysticism of this. kind of like, you know, I've never seen, and maybe that's, hey, maybe this is a, you know, I think this concept is cool. I think it's unique. I've never seen Mafia plus magic. I've never seen that combo. Really, like, I'm trying to think. I don't think I've ever seen it, which is a really good thing. I think your goal then is to say, hey, if you have this really unique idea, really centered around the character's journey and really trim to get us to it, because it's a cool concept, but, you know, I want to get there. And, you know, we're getting through. We're about page 8 of 123, so we're going to be getting to about the 10% mark pretty soon, which you want to get some stuff happening by then. Says the cure. She's already in there. Okay, Miss Fantasia was a local witch doctor, gypsy, fortune teller, exorcist. Married to God and was better trusted in the neighborhood than any hospital doctor. Ring even more garlic than Tony, circles him as he mumbles. Sweat glistens over her fat face. Must be the same Cotune who tied a string around Tony's cock when he was in the baby carriage. That is the Kirsten, I'm sure of it. Tony's face starts turning to, no, no, my Tony. Louder until she suddenly tops in terms and jump scares the woman. The muses they're speaking there. Miss Fantasia's eyes bulge out of her head as if some invisible man were throttling her neck. She chokes. His first son will be born with the veil. He will lead a charmed life, as his lust for power does not ruin him. The most beautiful woman will adore him. With his eyes he will see through people. He will know what others don't. This part is a little bit telling on your theme. I'd be careful. Yeah. I think the power and the price of the, you know, and one movie to watch is Deer Hunter, because they have a similar setup where that's kind of like the wedding gone wrong and some sort of horrible prediction and all this stuff. So check that out. It's a good movie. But yeah, that may be something that can help guide this. Watch his eyes, see through people. Okay. But will he know mercy? His power won't be from the devil. Call him Salvadore for our Savior. Savior, Salvadore, Salva. Stranglehold around her neck. Lifts her off the linoleum and she flings into the plaster like a rag doll. Woman jump scare again. Fair fates. What happened? Is she gone? It's Miss Fantasia. She's dead. Devil killed her. We all saw with our own eyes, and our eyes don't lie. Tony never got sick again. They swear it was a true miracle. Okay, sucks for Fantasia, but there still are a ton of characters. I mean, I think Tony and Vera are the guy's parents. And unfortunately, it's late, so I may only last to page 10. But you know, your goal is, you know, with whatever draft comes, is, you know, no matter how sleepy Final Boss editing is, you know, you want me to be, like, really, like, leaning forward and, like, curious. Have those dramatic questions early, really strong. There's a good book, let me pull up its name, on, you know, really building that tension and motion in stories. And it's actually so well written because this writer is phenomenal that it's absolutely enthralling. Let me see. It's called Stein on Writing by Sol Stein. I'll type that in here. Just read that. It's amazing. It's more around fiction, but some of the techniques, you know, I think could help here. Baby kids covered in thin midbrain looking like a butterfly in a coconut. The old word in a cocoon. The old world called it a veil. Sign of good luck. The mystic protection. And there was mine. Right there. Peels away the membrane. Picks the baby kid up at his feet. Gives him a slap on the behind. Kid doesn't cry. Did he say something? He called you a schmuck. See, it's a bit I think you're like straddling the tone here between like joking and serious. The tone seems to straddle. I know you called it a dramedy. I mean, it has a suicide scene early on. What I wrote. I won't repeat it. Baby kid lies in the crib with his face turning blue. And it worked too. I was practicing how to hold my breath. The tiny blue baby chucks him in the bathtub with cold water and ice. My dad had come to spoil my concentration. As early as then, I knew I was pretty much invincible. Vera dresses a 1-year-old kid in fresh clothes. Laurie puts her purse behind them. Beautiful Bambino will make us rich. I had a heart attack. There were no spirits. Hell with doctors. Eyes don't lie. So I guess we're back to like the, okay, 7:13. Barris leans back in his chair. He grumbles it over the newspaper. What's the smell? Shut up and check the numbers. Can you smell it too? It's been there all night. For Christ's sake. Turns to the mutual handle. 7 million, whatever. Da, da, da. We hit it. We hit the number. I had $2 on 137. That's not our number. It was today. Can you believe that's $10,000? Jumps from his seat and celebrates with his wife. Hey, could I have 100 for Big A tomorrow? I got a sure thing. You know how I got it, Toto? Sally Boy gave it to me. I don't know. So, this is maybe like very on tone for this type of film. It just seems like very, like, not cliche, but it's like, yeah, everybody talks Brooklyn, it's Brooklyn, Brooklyn. So maybe it's just because I'm reading with that accent, but I would consider having maybe one person talk normal or something like that to give us a little bit more variety. Millionaire, and what are you, a bum? You throw away your money on horses. Oh, come now. Time is going to be different. All I want is 100. But I want you to tell all your friends who gave me the number. Our grandson, Sally Boy. Why does she want all the attention? Bathes the kid. I always got what I wanted. I was spotless, wore suits. A lot more jumping around. From my pops, figured I was going to be a great lawyer one day. Pitch for the plate. Just couldn't escape the resentment of my teammates. I would try to show these moments. So the thing is, and I'm probably going to have to stop now, more just because of sleepiness. Actually, I'm kind of curious to read on at this point. But I think the problem is it's taking a long time to build up. I would really go through with a very sharp knife and figure out which things can be cut. Also, this would show the resentment of the teammates. Don't tell us about it. Have a scene of it. If you're going to use that. So my recommendation would be overall, keep it in the present. Is the past necessary for anything? Like, is the past, like the betting system, you know, necessary for anything beyond the... I would just say, show us, just have us see his power. You know, as an adult. I mean, maybe this is like a whole series of flashbacks catching up to his present day, which may be the structure you're choosing. Which is fine, but then I would just be really efficient. Schoolyard, okay, let's just look if we're going through his life. Yeah, so he's talking with chicks. Okay, now he's in college. Okay, so this is pretty much a biopic of this guy. Things to watch out for. Yeah, I mean, I think Forrest Gump did it well because they did a few things. They had people grow up with him. You know, Jenny and his mama. You know, so I think that's how they handled it. But you think about Lieutenant Dan, wasn't like he was well developed, but it wasn't like super well. And you think about Bubba, and those characters kind of just come and go and come and go, and it's part of the theme of Forrest Gump, so it makes sense. You know, that kind of like experience of like floating around through life. But I would really, so if you're gonna stick with this structure, I would just focus on a few points of his life. Yeah. Like, for example, like a lot of the stuff you think you can cut, it's like I don't think the betting is going to make a huge difference to the outcome. Like, I don't know if that's going to come back and they're going to talk about the number, lucky number again. So keep things really efficient when you're doing that setup. So overall, I mean, I think the good stuff was, I mean, the language writing is super strong. Like, you know, good grammar. I think the thing you really, really want to focus on, and the dialogue is good. Jumps around a little, but, you know, I can follow it. A single through line plot that keeps moving. The first few scenes feel like straight. Add conflict in everything. Oops. And then yeah, I mean, I think that's the thing to really think about, right? Is like if I didn't have this punchy setup. Hey, Sour Haggis, how's it going? I'm actually about to sign off. I'm sorry. It's late night over here, but good to see you. You should check out these if you're doing any reading lately. Stein on Writing and this is Twitch Majin Buu's script. But pretty much, I can kind of go over what we're talking about here. Pretty much, this is a biopic of an Italian kid who has this magical power, you know, is kind of pretty much immortal. So what we find is that because we're going over his whole life, it gets a little bit disjointed. You're getting a lot of characters. So whenever you have a story that follows someone's life, like, you know, year by year as they're growing up and all this stuff, you want to look at how people have done it in the past, and, you know, stuff like Forrest Gump, where you have a few characters that grow up with the main character. I don't know if that happens here. I'm having to cut it soon, but also it's very voiceover heavy, which I'm not personally a fan of. But it's more like a Goodfellas comedy type thing. But it's interesting. Yeah, let me see. Story structure, a single through-line plot keeps moving. First few scenes feel like straight exposition. Yeah, add conflict and everything. So one thing that you find, and in this case it's there as well, is you know, in the very beginning, he has a very strong hook with the character trying to commit suicide, but the problem is that immediately after that, we jump into the past, 1956, where the kid's a baby, and you kind of lose that tension build up. So that's one of the other kind of big themes is whenever you have a big, strong hook in the beginning of the story, you know, make sure that you have something to follow up with it on. That's really, really important to keep that kind of momentum going. And, you know, the recommendation is write it without the hook and see what it sounds like. Kind of the last overall note I would say is, you know, ensure everything is 100% necessary. And then how do you do that? Does this scene and its information directly affect climactic character change? Like, does that climactic event happen does it depend on these scenes? So saying like, hey, look, like let's say at the end of the, like, you know, think about Star Wars, which is an extremely well-structured film, right? Every scene contributes to how Luke matures and how he eventually defeats the Death Star. Like, every single moment in New Hope, for example, points to that moment where those two torpedoes go into the you know, the Death Star. So you kind of want that same effect, right? Like the two droids coming. You have to have the two droids come. You have to have Princess Leia put the message in there, or else the two droids coming would never set him on his quest. You have to have Obi-Wan give him his father's lightsaber, or else he would never have like trained and learned the Force. You have to have them go to Mos Eisley, or else they would have never found Han to like get them there. And then once they do that, they would have never gotten to the Death Star to turn down the shield to like find the plan. So it's like everything is like leads up, and it's if you take away one piece, it falls. It's like you kind of have this. Like right now, the story as it stands is kind of a full Jenga tree, right? You can like take out a piece, and it still is going to stand. Star Wars, for example, New Hope, that is like a Jenga where every single thing is taken out, so only the bare bones remain. And that's what you need to get to here, is like, you know, that cause and effect, just ironclad. And absolutely, like, if I take this out, about every scene, ask about every scene. If I take this out, what changes? And if you find yourself saying, like it's gonna probably still pan out the same, or this information, even if it's just like a fact, like it's gone, you know, like let's say the betting game was what you know, they used to like discover the kid's power was like, oh, 714, this numbers game. If I took out this betting system, would it still work? So yeah, that's really what you're trying to get to, I think, in this next draft. But this is really good, like great work. I think the writing is super strong. You know, more as I'm reading more of your writing, you know, Majin Buu, or also known as Gregory. I think the thing that I'm finding is, you know, you really try just cutting the crap, like cut everything, like get this to 90 pages. And it seems like Jeff, you're freaking crazy. But the more you know, you're one of those guys, I think, who's a really good writer. You're very good in scenes, like building a scene. But there's two things that it seems to be like kind of missing. Is one, you love to explain everything. You love to go into backstory. Trust your reader. You know. You know, trust your reader. Just focus on conflict in the scene. Don't focus on setting everything up. I think you set up these great, awesome worlds, but then you really want to build them out completely. I would steer you away from that. Focus on the present story, what's happening now, or, you know, if it's going to be this biopic that tracks him through his life, find the biggest life-changing moments in his life and only show us those. Don't show us anything else. So I would really, really say, you know, use, you know, every instrument at your disposal and every technique you can to trim down your exposition, trim down your setup. Just make so this something you can snap a quarter off of. It's so efficient storytelling. I think once you get to telling the story, and your writing style and your prose and your script writing is great. Like, it's really strong. So, you know, the writing side you have really strong. I would just really dig into saying, okay, look, how do I tell this story as efficiently as possible? And, you know, make sure everything you're saying is necessary and everything has conflict in it. Because you had this great setup scene with a suicidal guy, like really engaging, and then we jump back to like a baby drawing on the wall with poo-poo. So it's like, you know, those types of moments, like, what is that necessary? You know, maybe the baby magic part is, that's fine, but, you know, is, you know, spending a few pages explaining how this numerical system works? Probably not necessary. So those types of questions, you know, make sure you answer those throughout the screenplay. And, you know, I think, you know, it's really, I think if you can fix those structural issues, like the writing will, I mean, your writing's strong, this will sell. So, you know, I think you have a lot of potential. It's a cool concept. And, yeah, I'm excited to see what comes of it. And in future drafts, hopefully it will be so efficient that when I do read to page 10, no amount of sleepiness will stop me from continuing. But today, unfortunately, I am very sleepy, and I think this was a strong start, and I'm excited to read more. And great job. Anyways, guys, I'm going to bed. Good night.